Hi there, I'm David Allen. I am the Executive Director for CECA Southern. The Civil Engineering Contractors Association is a not-for-profit trade body that represents over 300 organisations that between them deliver about 80% of the civil engineering infrastructure within mainland UK. We as a body, CECA, consist of 6 English regions, 2 devolved nations, and we have a national office in London. And collectively, we actually engage, promote and support our membership across the UK. In a nutshell, CECA provides a window for its members across all levels of the industry to provide them with a voice and also to share awareness. We are guided by our members and we deliver against a series of core pillars that you can see on the screen behind me. And looking just particularly at one in particular, the client's workload and policy pillar that we've been working on has gone to strength over the last 2 years effectively, actually, because we knew there was an election coming and we were working really hard to make sure that we got the need and the importance of infrastructure in face of every key political party within the UK. So we worked with them during 2023, and then into 2024, we actually published our manifesto for the key priorities that we would ask for any incoming government. We have continued this engagement with government, who do recognise that infrastructure is at the heart of helping the economy grow, which is obviously their driving mantra. We have seen a significant number of policy wins, as echoed in last week's spending review, as you can see on the screen there. And we feel that the ground is now set for the construction industry to play its part in delivering government's growth mission going forward. You're pleased to see that we lobbied for the protection of capital spend. We didn't want it to reduce, and the spending review focus is broadly welcomed by CECA. We promoted the need for 5-year rolling budgets for England's roads and highways sectors, and that's moving forward at the moment. The National Infrastructure Service Transformation Authority, NISTA, was launched in April of this year, and it's out there to better connect those that outline our infrastructure strategies with those that can actually influence unlocking them. That has been a key ask for CECA members for a number of years. And we've also seen the new strategic roadmap that aims to eliminate uncertainty and provide a clear and cohesive vision for the national infrastructure over the next decade. Again, another key CECA ask. And again, we see planning reform, the publication of the Banner Review to deliver reforms, accelerating the delivery of key infrastructure projects by limiting legal challenges, all stuff that is very important to us in delivering our key infrastructure. Client workload and policy going forward. We held an Ageing Assets Conference at the end of last year. And again, we were engaging with the key decision makers within government. And the Roads Minister, Lillian Greenwood, MP, attended at our Bristol conference, where we focused on managing our ageing assets, an essential part of looking after our transportation infrastructure going forward. Earlier this year, we held an AI conference and we released an AI construction report in May to increase industry awareness. The report outlines 10 key considerations under the following headings: managing risk, cross-industry collaboration, and of course, training and skills development. We've continued to support nationally and regionally important infrastructure and their clients for delivery in the UK, and that included Lower Thames Crossing, and we have been working quite closely with the Lower Thames Crossing team to try and promote that essential bit of transportation infrastructure. Obviously, we've spoken about the challenges, and I know that Kat mentioned government budgets earlier. It is clear that the sector is having to manage some overarching issues. The the constraint on the government's budget to date has caused challenges, but hopefully the spending review and other government measures will help to ease some of this uncertainty. There has been a relative slowdown in the highways and rail sector that is impacting on the sustainability of the supply chain to a degree, whereas the energy and water sectors have a potential for massive delivery. We also, as an organisation, we promote the need for pipeline, and tangible bit is the key word here. Having timely sight of and access to this will create greater clarity and in the market and provide confidence for all to engage. But what we do ask is, why is it taking to lead into some of these projects? And what can we do to actually avoid the slow nose? Let's get better at actually chasing out the full stalls, because it all costs us money. Other challenges, the resource challenge. This is an industry-wide problem. The old guard are leaving. The new guard are not sure about joining. And the range of skill sets now required to deliver in today's world has increased enormously. In addition, the CITB suggests that many of those enrolled in construction-related training do not enter our industry. CECA is working with industry bodies on the CLC, and 600 million in funding has been secured for construction skills in England. CECA are supporting the development of the infrastructure sector plan led by Leo Quinn to help deliver this. Technology. So where are we with AI? And I know there will be some discussions about this later. Who underwrites the decisions or actions that are delivered partially or wholly by it? Where does it sit under the NEC, and how does the wider contracting market embed this into their operation? In terms of our industry accreditation, will face-to-face assessments need to replace the coursework that is currently relied upon? Climate change. This was picked up at the 2023 NEC People's Conference, and Richard Patterson also presented to us at CECA last year. But where is the industry now? Wouldn't mind a show of hands at this point. Do you feel that the industry procurement process fully promote climate change mitigation across industry? And so I'm looking for, at the moment, I'm not seeing any, so I'm assuming your view is the same view of the feedback that I got from our members. What they've said is that generally members, not all members, feel that the client groups are on the same page. And whilst climate change can only be tackled by cross-industry collaboration, the costs or implications of implementing this change will arise sooner or later in the process. Variable client adherence to mitigating climate change often appears to have commercial drivers. These will inhibit industry progress in reducing its carbon footprint. Exemplar performance, and we heard something about that on LTC earlier, will only deliver a fraction of industry output, but won't help us achieve our goals overall. Right, moving on to procurement. And as I say, this is feedback from our members. And really, we're looking at the starting point. NEC4 was updated in part from NEC3 to align the construction playbook, which aims to deliver better, faster and greener projects, and in which there are a number of key objectives and principles which, if not adopted in using NEC4, means its use can be detrimental to the contractor. Early contractor involvement is not universally adopted by clients, particularly when they are under programme pressure. This can result in the use of single-stage procurement where the front-end engineering design, or FEED, as it's otherwise known, is not sufficiently informed or developed, putting the contractor at risk in terms of programme and cost. Too often, the procurement is transactional, price-based, time-restricted, and again, puts the contractor at risk. Engaging with suppliers early is a policy that will help improve efficiency by providing the client with opportunities to receive recommendations on design, cost, risk management, and structuring of the projects. Risk allocation, again, linked to ECI. If clients work with contractors at early stage, risks can be addressed and solutions developed to mitigate them before construction begins. Risk allocation will then determine which parties will assume each risk. Further feedback on, you knew this was coming, didn't you? In 2023, the Construction Leadership Council, in collaboration with the NEC, published joint guidance to industry on the use of retention clauses under the NEC 3 and the NEC 4 engineering and construction contracts. The publication explained how NEC contract suites dealt with defective work and retentions, and explained that a retention fund may not, in fact, be needed. This work formed part of the CLC ambition of moving to zero retentions by 2025. Right, moving on. How many in the room think we still need retention? One. Okay. Does it support supply chain resilience and sustainability? Anyone think that? Okay. Does it really provide the client assurance? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, still not a lot. Well, to say I'm sort of jumping the gun a bit there, but we'll move on to that. Right. Just to give you some examples about what retention can do. Project prolongation. Retention can create many challenges for a contractor, for instance, prolongation. Even if there is agreement in place with time and money agreed, there are still issues. Question: who thinks financing retention can be recovered? That's pretty clear. As you can see, the answer is no. For an SME, on a large project, that can be expensive, and for an SME, that is painful. And I did think there was a suggestion, and Richard might know this, that there was a cost component in the NEC 2 financing these costs. There was? Yeah, so that bit of research was right. Okay, moving on to release. The NEC will determine the percentage and the release criteria in X11. The process should be straightforward and a priority for all parties. But that's not always the case. When it isn't, the cost and resource required to be engaged impacts on cash flow and reduces margin. To get this into context, one CECA member with a turnover of £100 million and a profit before tax of £2.1 million had £5.4 million held in retention, 2.5 times their profit before tax. So let's move on to impacts. Cash flow. The contractor loses the ability to reinvest, train, and potentially even trade. Because if you get into difficulties these days, the banks aren't so willing to help. It impacts on your bottom line, earned margin, locked up and not accessible. More and more resource required to pursue entitlement that does not appear to be the priority of others. It's a potential killer for SMEs, and ultimately, a contractor's willingness to engage is directly impacted by the risk profile generated by the terms and conditions. Trends. The UK surety market has changed. With some surety providers having moved away from the industry, it is now resulting in fewer options in the market. Whilst our industry clients want even more bonds, which is creating a perfect storm. So what does that mean? From an impact position, And bearing in mind, or reflecting on the point I made earlier about retention, financing bonds is playing a bigger part. And reflecting on that impact from retention, a contractor's financial performance will fluctuate over time, because that's what happens. It's a contracted world, that's the nature of the business. And with potentially a late award of a contract or addressing challenges on a contract at any particular time, all of these, you would suggest, are just part of the contractor's risk, and that's something that they have to deal with. And after all, they are not making widgets, they're just in it for the longer haul. And a well-run business will navigate the peaks and troughs appropriately. However, it is now a tougher place. The scrutiny that is imposed on contractors to secure bonds has grown, and it's making it a very difficult place to actually secure bonds to carry out the work that contractors need to carry out, particularly for SMEs. And on top of this, you have the resource management costs and availability making it an ever greater challenge. And this is why I engage you as an audience again. As a successful SME, you have several projects on the go, and they all have bonds. Some are due to finish shortly. What do you do if you win another project that also requires a bond? Do you apply to extend your existing cover? Do you go to the cost and resource challenge to secure an additional bond? Or do you walk away? And I probably won't do a hand call on this one, but the answer is B. Maybe C, but never A. Looking to extend existing bonds to cater for new work can create challenge. Although the contractor may be experiencing some slack in their perceived liability as projects conclude, it actually sets off the surety panic alarm. Why do they need to extend? Are they in trouble? Step away. In addition, engaging on contracts where SME completion is also linked to the overall project completion also creates a real challenge for those suppliers and ties up their surety provision. Again, more resources required to manage and maintain this bond process. And on-demand bonds are real deal breakers and are an unsupportable risk. Overall, the contractor's risk perception and allocated costs will increase with any inappropriate requirement for bonds, and can also drive supply chains to seek opportunity in other parts of the sector. Probably one of the biggest bits of feedback we had was around programme. And it's actually about the administration of the Clause 32 programme. With increased speed of end-to-end project and programme delivery, the administration of the Clause 32 programme makes sense. It's month on month. And the agreement of the impact of change and delay of the programme is key. Members suggest that some clients reject the Clause 32 programmes because they don't like what they're telling them. At this point, I duck, but that's all right. However, without an agreed Clause 32 programme, it is more and more difficult to assess and agree the impact of change and delay. It also leaves the contractor exposed to LDs, which with the contractor has to actually provide for in reporting their estimated final value and margin. Assurance is a key part of this, and not being able to actually tie down the monies and the time allowances under the change, it can expose the contractor to increased pain, particularly through the pain share under Option C, where the target is not adjusted for the impact of change and delay, and it often leaves a contractor having to do a deal at the end of the project. Now, I never expect to be told that, but that apparently is happening. And maybe we can have a while to talk about that later. There is also a suggestion, like across our industry where we're looking at resource and things like that, there is a challenge around the experience of those that are actually administering the process, and that might actually be impacting on the outcomes that we're seeing. Moving on very quickly now to risk under the NEC. We've already touched on it earlier. The state of the 2024 State of the Nation NEC for People's Survey said only 29% of the said clauses would be considered worthy, useful, and contributed to making positive difference to the management of the project. That many. The concerns are as they are not tried and tested and can end up creating subjectivity or ambiguity, often doing more harm than good, with contractors requiring additional legal support during the procurement or if issues arise. The whole situation is making it even harder to manage the risk perception around engaging with a project. And it stimulates the debate about inappropriate risk transfer to the contractor. It is now more important than ever that the industry challenges some of these amendments to support longer-term sustainability in the market, where the cost disputes arising would much better be spent on delivering the projects that have a balanced risk profile in the first place. We would like at CECA to see more collaboration at an earlier stage via ECI or some of the other opportunities and initiatives that have already been discussed today to better inform the wider position. Again, as I said, there's quite a bit of feedback that came back and I'm having to move through it fairly swiftly. But one of the issues that came out was guidance notes, clause 50.9. This doesn't appear to work. Part of the final account process is already amended twice in previous versions. It is a complicated clause, and really some guidance notes would be helpful to move that forward. And I think that's something that we probably need to look at outside of this, because it is a problem within our contracting world. The NEC insurance clauses that states that insurance is to be in joint names, but the industry generally uses brokers' letters with indemnity to principal clauses covering the other parties. Should this not be updated appropriately? X15 may get a giggle in the room, but reasonable skill and care. Could this not be incorporated as standard clause as a starter? The NEC option 15, X15 does not expressly exclude fitness for purpose, but instead refers to design taking reasonable skill and care, and is a performance standard. But should it not already been embedded? And an overarching theme that kept coming back was the slow implementation of compensations events. And there was a question that was raised by several, that relating to expediency under the contract. Contractors are able to charge interest where a quotation isn't implemented. So what do? In a timely manner. And contractors end up funding projects given that only implemented CEs can be paid. This adds to the growing perception that the contractor has been asked more and more to bankroll the job. And I'm getting this from the very largest contractors right down to the SMEs. It seems to be a topic that's common, and I think there's a whole number of issues, and I spoke about the experience of some of the parties maybe engaged in the process, the challenge around funding, the challenge around resource. That all comes into play. I've probably skimmed over a lot of things, but there is a need to take a discussion further. And this wasn't meant to be a sermon. It was just really trying to unlock or create an awareness about some of the challenges that we're facing and highlight the need for us to engage better as an industry to work together. And I've heard about Project 13 and the aims and the goals, and we would again like to support that further as well, because we're all on a learning curve and we all need to bring about sort of an improvement in the way we deliver them. Because at the end of the day, it should all be about getting the most of that pound in the ground. Thank you.